Hey, welcome back to my second vlog for 31 Days of Horror. And this one's going to cover day 6 through to day 10. So, without messing about, I'll get right to it. So, thinking caps on. What I watched for day 6? I watched Thirst. Now, Thirst is from 2009, and it is perhaps maybe the most strange of the more recent vampire films that I've seen. But that would be because, well, would it be because? Yeah, I think it's because of who the director is, and that is Park Chan-wook, who you would hopefully, I should hope you know that he directed Old Boy and the other Vengeance films, which made up the Vengeance trilogy. So this is a bit different from those because, A, it has vampires, and there's a really interesting love story in the movie. So basically you've got a priest who goes away, and he decides that he's going to take part in these experiments, and as a result he contracts vampirism. So he comes back, and as he tries to deal with it, he realizes that the changes have compromised who he is, because the priest is probably, the symbol of pure and innocence and what is good, and the vampirism aims to change all that. So while he's going through these changes, he meets this woman, and they kind of form this really bizarre, crazy romance, and the more they get involved, the crazier things get. So he's feeling extremely compromised, and he's understanding that he's not the person who he was. So once that happens, the last 40 minutes are really intense. They're bloody, and it's got a very quirky humor to it. But yeah, it's like I don't want to say all the time. It's hard to explain. It's something you just should watch. With the dynamic between the two people, the effect that something like an outside influence has on somebody so good. There's so many, metaphorical meanings. It's something you really just can unravel yourself. So, yeah, performances are outstanding. Direction's fantastic. Script, amazing. The visuals are just gorgeous. Like, drool-worthy gorgeous. Absolutely. Overall, it's an absolutely fantastic film, and definitely one of the best that I've seen, even all year, out of, films I've not seen yet, or seen before, rather. What else have we got? So, day 7, my score for this, 4.5 out of 5. Okay, now to Prison. Prison is a very early film from Renny Harlin, who you should know from the likes of Nightmare on Elm Street 4, Die Hard 2, those many movies. What was the shark one? Deep Blue Sea. Yeah, let's forget that movie for a minute. Yeah, so Prison. It's set in a prison. What a surprise. It's a haunted prison with the ghost of a former inmate who was executed, and he was innocent, which you could look at that as a metaphor for, why, you shouldn't execute people in case they're innocent, but, that's a whole nother discussion, but it could be a metaphor for that. You've got Viggo Mortensen, who is so young in this movie. It's a very early role. He's fantastic. And you've got Lane Smith, who is just one of my favourite actors, just with everything that he's done. He's really great as, the villain. So there's a back and forth between those. You've got, Lane Smith is the warden, and he was a previous guard at this prison, and he's being haunted with the memories of the prisoner who was executed. But you're not sure why and what's going on. It reveals itself later, as it should, because it's the reveal. But the build-up and the action and everything going on, it's really good. It's a lot of fun. And I was really impressed with the effects. And some of the kills are really unique. They're interesting. It's really fun. I was really impressed. So, yeah, if you can find Prison, check that out. I think I gave it 3.5 out of 5. Following that is a whatchamacallit, a recommendation from a while ago from AJ. Hey AJ. Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde from Hammer Horror. Now, I was told about this, I think you recommended it on the podcast, and I was like, alright, yeah, that sounds interesting. So I added it to my list. I went out and found it, but idiot me just didn't get around to watching it because my my to watch pile was like, 300, 400 movies or whatever it is. Yeah, I'm so going to get through that in my lifetime. But yeah, I thought for this, it sounded interesting enough. So I thought, yeah, let's add it to 31 Days. And this is an interesting battle of the sexes story, really, where you've got Dr. Jekyll, who he's trying to find, like, cures for diseases and, prolonging life, all that kind of thing. He's like a crazy scientist, like, of course, it's a crazy scientist. But he eventually invents something which changes male to female. And when he does that, the female, when, he transforms into the female, she's the evil part of his personality. So, once she comes out and then there's murders and, it goes a little bit crazy. And, yeah, so pretty much the film, I don't know, is this message women are evil, men are good? Is it, what's it trying to say? Because, Mrs. Hyde is very evil and cunning and, she's all these different things. Yet there's a character with whom, Dr. Jekyll falls for, and she's, symbolic of, again, what I said with Thirst, like the innocence, purity type of thing. So there's a big, thing. I mean, it really is, good, evil, man, woman type of thing. And, yeah, they throw in, like, Jack the Ripper, Burke and Hare, even a Sherlock Holmes type of thing, and this, it's kind of like, yeah, let's just fit all this stuff in a Jekyll and Hyde type of story. But it's actually an interesting film. I mean, yeah, the title's kind of cheesy, but, like, what was the thing? Yeah, that might be cheesy. Some of it is. Some of the dialogue is a bit cheesy, but, overall it's actually, like, a really interesting movie, and to see, like, what their thoughts were on, Battle of the Sexes back then. And is it reflective of the time it was set, or is it reflective of the late 60s, early 70s when, the women's movement was really taking off and, women were getting more empowered? So it's interesting to think about, where their ideas came from. Sets are great. The atmosphere is really awesome. There's, such a foggy feel, and it adds to the, spookiness of the atmosphere. You've got great costumes, and the performances are fantastic. Jekyll and Hyde, they both had a similar look about them. And, yeah, they both just put on really great performances. And it's one, if you can find, check out, because it's an interesting little study. So thanks for that, AJ. So day 9, we've got Brian Usner's directorial debut with Society. And I was completely, hesitant to watch this because I looked it up and I just saw a few little screen caps and I'm like, oh, that looks really disgusting. Am I going to, handle this? And this is coming from me, who will sit through anything. Now, yeah, stuff grosses me out, but it's not to the point of I have to switch it off. But I thought this could really test that, but I'm an idiot. I build things up in my head. When it came to it, the grossness, it wasn't that bad. It was, more along the lines of, wow, how did they do that? That looks awesome. Really great effects. Things are gross because of what happens, but it's not like I can't watch it. I mean, something like, Peter Jackson's Brain Dead is much more, disgusting and gory. But Society is basically used as, middle finger to rich society, basically, because they're portrayed as the bad, the villains. And you've got, the innocent sort of outsider who's kind of suspecting that there's something's not right, but they try to convince him and, you know, portray him as just being paranoid. So, you know, as things progress and, you know, things get a little more crazy, and then, you know, with the last, I guess, third of the film is when you really find out what's going on, and it's very strange. It's, you know, there's a line in the film about, you know, the rich feeding off the poor, and, you know, that's basically the, you know, the real big metaphor there. I've watched some very metaphorical movies. So, yeah, it's an interesting film. It's a really good one. It's so much fun when this stuff happens. It's, you know, disgusting and strange. It's really interesting, and they play it up, you know, so hilariously, and Screaming Mad George and his crew did such an amazing job with, you know, the visual effects and the makeup. Just a job well done, and yeah, worth seeing. And I forgot I didn't give a rating to Jekyll and Hyde and Society. They have the same score, 3.5 out of 5, which I've given a lot of movies. So everything's, you know, above average, solid. So yeah, Society, again, if you can track that one down, it's a good watch. And you'll just be like, ugh, rich people, how dare they? And the last film for this vlog, and I haven't watched anything else because I am on day 10, this one came as a recommendation from Sam. So, hi, Sam. It's called Paper House, which is a British, I guess it's like horror fantasy type. It's more family orientated. This was really interesting, and as I watched it, I kind of felt like I remembered it. So maybe when I was younger I'd seen it, I just don't remember. It's about a girl, and she starts to get sick, but as that's happening, she draws a house, and this house goes into her dreams. And when she draws this boy that she hears about in there, once she dreams, he's in there. And it's this contrast between her getting really sick and then the events in her dreams in the house are getting more vicious, and, you know, there's an added character in there. And she forms this great bond with this boy, but she's had never actually met him in person. And, you know, again, metaphorical for things like absent parent, you know, finding your first real good friend as a kid, and, you know, having loss as a kid. It's really interesting. Like, you know, it's really well made. It's visually just astounding and really great atmosphere. Like, I read nothing about this film. I went into it completely blind, and I was just, like, floored when I watched it. It's such a fantastic film. I mean, I didn't even know what to say about it. It was just so good. And, you know, I think off the bat I just gave this 5 out of 5 because, you know, it's a great story. It's got great acting, great script. It's just a really beautiful fantasy horror film. And, you know, it goes up there with things like, you know, like an Alice in Wonderland type of story, or, you know, like, you know, when somebody digresses into the dream world. But this one actually has consequences on the outside world. So whereas you say you see something and you know, why am I spending time in a fantasy when there's no risk there? But here there really is, and that just made it perfect. So, you know, for me, this is like a really fantastic film. And again, if you can find it, check it out. So, yeah, that's my vlog for those 5 days. Hopefully I've been entertaining. And I apologize, I keep looking everywhere. The camera hole is up there, and I'm looking at myself there. Alright, so the next 5 days, so in 5 days I'll come back, I'll be watching Sisters, Pieces, The Bird with the Crystal Plumage, Saturday the 14th, which I purposely set to watch on the 14th, which isn't on a Friday, which kind of bumped me out, and then on the 15th, I'll wrap that up with Psycho 2. So I'll bring you back mini reviews of all of those. So thanks for tuning in, and hopefully you've enjoyed it and you check these movies out. So thank you. Bye.